I hear her voice before I see her. Light teasing. I'm home, just lying in bed, she says. But she's not home, she's 10 feet away, in some guy's car, her hand on his thigh. My chest tightens, blood pounds in my ears. She laughs. Carefree. Clueless. And just like that, my world shatters. It all started with a fake call. Looking back, the signs were there. They always are, aren't they? You just don't see them until it's too late. Until they slap you in the face so hard that pretending isn't an option anymore. Emily and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5. She was my best friend, my partner, the woman I thought I'd grow old with. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I thought we were solid. A team. Then, things changed. It started small, so small I almost ignored it. She became distant, always distracted, her phone never leaving her side. When she texted, she angled the screen away from me. I told myself it was nothing. Privacy, right? Everyone deserves some. Then came the excuses. Work's been crazy lately. My boss is on my ass, I have to stay late. I'm just tired, babe. Rain check? At first, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? This was Emily. The woman who used to text me cute messages in the middle of the day just because. The woman who would curl up next to me at night, tracing circles on my chest until we both fell asleep. But that Emily was gone. Instead, I got someone who flinched when I touched her. Who suddenly had a new friend group from work I'd never heard of before. Who was too tired for sex, too busy for dates, too lost in her own world to even notice how much I was fading into the background. And then came the first fake call. It was a Thursday night. I had just gotten home from work, expecting to find her there, maybe curled up on the couch watching one of those trashy reality shows she loved. But the house was empty. No lights on. No sound. I pulled out my phone and called her. Hey, babe, she answered. Her voice was light, casual. I'm just at home, lying in bed. I frowned. Really? Yeah, she said, dragging the word out like she was stretching. So tired. Work was brutal today. I stood in our silent, empty living room, staring at the spot where her shoes should have been. The bathroom door was open. The bed was neatly made. There was no sign of her anywhere. But she just kept talking. I didn't say anything for a few seconds, just listened. In the background, I could hear something faint, a low hum, maybe an engine, the distant murmur of voices. Hello? She said, suddenly sharper. Babe? I snapped out of it. Yeah, sorry. Thought I heard something. She sighed. I'm exhausted. I might just crash early. Lie. A small one, maybe. But lies never come alone, do they? They come in chains, linked together, pulling you deeper until you drown in them. I didn't confront her. Not then. Maybe I was too stunned. Maybe I wanted to believe she had a good reason. Instead, I let it go, pushing that uneasy feeling down, telling myself it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't. The fake calls kept happening. More little lies, so easy, so smooth. I'm at home. When she wasn't. I'm with the girls. When they later told me they hadn't seen her in weeks. I love you. When her eyes didn't match her words. I started paying attention. She used to text me first thing in the morning, a simple, good morning, or a heart emoji. That stopped. I was the one always reaching out, waiting hours for a reply. Her work schedule changed. Suddenly she had meetings, at odd hours, nights out with coworkers who seemed to exist only when it was convenient. One night I tested her. She had told me she was grabbing drinks with a friend, so I asked which bar they were going to. She hesitated for a split second, too short for most people to notice, but I caught it. Oh, the Blue Orchid, she said. I waited half an hour, then drove there. The place was nearly empty. No sign of Emily. No sign of her friend. I asked the bartender, showed him a picture of my wife. Haven't seen her, he said. I sat in my car for a long time after that, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My mind kept running through possibilities, excuses, explanations. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she went somewhere else. Maybe she was lying. That was the moment it really hit me. The woman I had trusted for 8 years, the woman I had built a life with, was lying to my face. Smoothly. Effortlessly. And if she was lying about this, what else was she lying about? I didn't sleep that night. I kept staring at the ceiling, feeling like my entire world had tilted sideways. I wanted to confront her, to demand answers, but something inside me said wait. Because once you open that door, there's no closing it again. Instead, I started preparing. I took notes. I watched. I listened. I started tracking the lies, letting them pile up, one after another, until there was no room for doubt. And then, one night, I got my answer. A pocket dial. A stupid, accidental call in the middle of the night. I woke up to the sound of her voice, groggy, half asleep, not realizing she had called me. Ugh, I wish I could stay the night. She giggled. Then, a deep male voice. Low, intimate. Something inside me broke. I sat up in bed, gripping my phone so hard my hand ached. My heart was pounding, my stomach twisting into knots. I listened. And that's when I knew, this wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was real. And it all started with a fake call. You always think you'll handle betrayal differently. That you'll see the signs early, that you'll catch the lies before they pile up. But the truth is, when you love someone, you blind yourself. You make excuses. You want to believe them, even when the evidence is right in front of you. But love can't outrun reality forever. That pocket dial was my breaking point. The moment when I stopped questioning and knew. I sat there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my wife's giggles, her whispered words. Ugh, I wish I could stay the night. I heard the rustle of fabric. A low chuckle. A man's voice, too muffled to make out the words, but I didn't need to hear them. The way Emily responded told me everything. The flirtation in her tone, the way she hummed in response, it was the sound of someone comfortable. Intimate. Familiar. Not the sound of a wife who loved her husband. The call cut off abruptly. I stared at the screen, waiting. Hoping, pathetically, that maybe she'd call back, realize her mistake, have some kind of explanation. But nothing. The rage came slow, creeping up my spine like ice. A cold, quiet kind of anger. Not explosive. Not immediate. Just a deep, sinking realization, she had been doing this for a while. And I had been too blind to see it. I needed proof. I wasn't about to confront her with nothing but a gut feeling and a few suspicious calls. No, if I was going to tear her lies apart, I wanted everything. So, I started digging. Emily never used to care where she left her phone. It would sit on the kitchen counter, unlocked, notifications popping up freely. That changed in the past few months. Now, it was glued to her hand or face down whenever I was around. She started sleeping with it under her pillow. One night, while she was in the shower, I tried to check it. Locked. A passcode I didn't know. Interesting. I didn't push my luck then, I wasn't stupid. Instead, I waited. Studied her habits. And one night I saw it. She unlocked her phone while we were watching TV, thinking I wasn't paying attention. My angle was perfect. 6 digits. 032815. A date. But not our anniversary. It nagged at me for days. March 28, 2015. What the hell did that mean? Then, one night I checked again. This time, I got in. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through her messages, her call logs, her photos. But she wasn't completely careless. There were no obvious texts from a mystery man, no suggestive pictures. But then I checked the deleted messages. There they were. A name I didn't recognize, Nathan. At first, the messages were casual. Normal. A coworker maybe? Then they got different. Emily, you're such a tease winking face. Nathan, you love it. Emily, maybe. But you're bad for me. Nathan, meet me tonight? Emily can't. He's home. I felt my stomach drop. He. Me. I scrolled faster, my pulse hammering in my ears. More messages. More lies. Talk about how he, me, had no idea. How thrilling it was. How she'd been missing this for so long. My wife. My fucking wife. I backed out of her messages before I could throw up, my breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. My hands were clenched so tightly around her phone that my knuckles ached. The date. I checked her photos, scrolling back. And then I found it. March 28th, 2015. A picture of Emily and him. Smiling. Holding hands. Long before we got married. He wasn't just some random guy. He was an old flame. A ghost from her past that had wormed his way back in. And she had let him. The next day, I checked her mileage. Emily drove the same route to work every day, 17 miles each way. If she was honest, her odometer should reflect that. But it didn't. There were extra miles. Not just a few. Hundreds. Where the hell had she been going? I needed to know. So I bought a GPS tracker. A small, discreet one. Slipped it under her car's bumper one morning while she was showering. And then I waited. For the next week, every time she said she was working late, I checked the tracker. And guess what? She wasn't at work. She was at his place. Knowing the truth and seeing it are two different things. I needed to see. So, one Friday night, when she told me she had a team dinner, I followed her. I kept my distance, my car blending into traffic. I wasn't breathing. My hands were tied on the wheel. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. She didn't go to a restaurant. She went to an apartment complex on the other side of town. Pulled into a space. Sat there for a minute, like she was checking herself. Then, she stepped out. And he was waiting for her. Nathan. Tall. Athletic. Smug. He opened his arms, and my wife walked right into them. No hesitation. No guilt. Then, right there, in the middle of the parking lot, she kissed him. Not a friendly kiss. Not a quick peck. A real, slow, deep kiss. Like she meant it. Like she'd done it 100 times before. And I just watched. The world blurred. My stomach twisted. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. She had no idea I was there. No idea I saw everything. I could have confronted her right then. I could have walked up, torn a little moment apart. But no. I wanted her to be the one caught off guard. So, I pulled out my phone. And I called her. She picked up immediately. "Hey, babe," she said sweetly. "I'm just finishing up dinner with the team." I stared at her. Watched her lean into Nathan as she lied to my face. "Yeah?" I said. "Where are you?" "The Blue Orchid," she answered smoothly. The same lie as before. I clenched my jaw. Enough. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. "That's funny," I said. She tensed. I saw it, even from across the parking lot. "Why?" she asked. "Because I'm looking right at you." Her head snapped up. Her eyes went wide. And in that moment I knew, the game was over. For a second, Emily didn't move. She just stood there, frozen, her phone still pressed to her ear. Her eyes darted around like she thought maybe, just maybe, I wasn't serious. Like I wasn't actually watching her wrap herself around another man. But then she saw me. I was parked just across the lot, my headlights off, my phone still against my ear. Even from here, I could see the blood drain from her face. Her body stiffened. And just like that, the reality of the situation sank in. She was caught. She dropped her hand from Nathan's chest like he was burning her. Took a half step away from him, shaking her head like that would somehow undo everything I'd just seen. "Babe, wait, I can explain," she said, voice tight with panic. I laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, humorless sound. "Yeah?" I said, stepping out of my car and slamming the door shut behind me. Go on then. Explain it to me. I walked toward them, slow and steady, my heart hammering in my chest. Emily took another step back. Nathan, to his credit, didn't bolt. He just stood there, arms crossed, eyes flicking between me and my wife like he was waiting to see what I'd do. I stopped a few feet away, shoving my phone in my pocket. Go ahead, Emily, I said. You were just about to tell me why you're at a work dinner when you're actually here, making out with some asshole in a parking lot. Her lips parted, but no words came out. I gave her 3 seconds. 3 seconds to tell the truth. To confess. To own up to anything. She didn't. Instead, she did what cheaters do best. She lied. This isn't what it looks like, she blurted out, her voice shaking. I let out a slow breath, pressing my tongue against the inside of my cheek. Of course. Of course she was going to say that. Really? I asked. Because it looks a hell of a lot like my wife is cheating on me. Emily's eyes darted to Nathan, then back to me. It's not like that, she insisted. We were just talking. Talking? I cut her off. Yeah, I saw how deep your tongue was in his mouth. Real intense conversation, Emily. She flinched. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. It was a mistake. I tilted my head. Oh? A mistake? I repeated. Tell me, how many times have you accidentally ended up here kissing this guy? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. And that was all the confirmation I needed. Nathan, who had been annoyingly quiet up until now, finally spoke. Look, man, he said, raising his hands. I don't want any trouble. I turned to him slowly. Trouble? I echoed. Buddy, you are the trouble. He sighed, rubbing a hand over his jaw. I didn't know she was married, he said, shaking his head. Another lie. I laughed again, shaking my head. Bullshit, I said. I saw the messages. I heard the phone calls. You knew exactly what you were doing. Nathan frowned, glancing at Emily. Messages? She swallowed hard, refusing to look at him. I pulled up my phone, unlocked it, and tapped my screenshots. I held it up so they both could see her messages, her words, her plans to meet him behind my back. The color drained from her face. Jesus Christ, Emily, Nathan muttered, stepping away from her. You told me you were separated. Emily whipped her head toward him. Nathan. But he was already shaking his head, running a hand through his hair. I'm not doing this, he muttered. I'm not getting involved in whatever the hell this is. He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving her to deal with the mess she had made. And just like that, it was just us. Emily and me. Husband and wife. Liar and fool. Her hands were shaking. Her chest was rising and falling too fast. She was panicking now, desperate to claw her way out of the grave she'd dug for herself. I wasn't going to let her. I crossed my arms, watching her squirm. So, I said. You lied to him, too? Guess I shouldn't be surprised. Her jaw clenched. I was going to tell you, she muttered. I arched an eyebrow. When? She hesitated. That's what I thought, I said. Silence stretched between us. The air was thick with tension. I could see her mind racing, scrambling for a way out. And then, like flipping a switch, she changed tactics. Her eyes welled with tears. Her lips trembled. She let out a shaky breath, wrapping her arms around herself. I didn't mean for this to happen. I rolled my eyes. Oh, give me a break. She sniffed. I was lonely, she said. You've been so distant lately. My blood boiled. You do not get to blame this on me, I snapped, stepping closer. I wasn't the one sneaking around. I wasn't the one lying to your face. Her face twisted. Well, maybe if you'd paid more attention to me. I laughed bitterly. Right. So now it's my fault? She didn't answer. Tell me something, Emily, I said, voice dangerously calm. Did you ever plan on stopping? Or were you just going to keep lying until I caught you? More silence. Her answer was written all over her face. I let out a slow, steady breath. My hands curled into fists at my sides. That was it. That was all I needed to hear. I turned on my heel and started walking away. Wait, where are you going? She asked, her voice rising in panic. I didn't stop. Home, I said. To start packing your shit. No, wait, let's talk about this, she cried, reaching for my arm. I yanked away from her touch. Talk? I repeated, turning back to face her. You had plenty of time to talk. You chose to lie instead. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. I shook my head, exhaling slowly. You already did. She opened her mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to lie again, but I didn't stick around to hear it. I climbed into my car, slammed the door shut, and left her standing there in that dark, empty parking lot. Alone. Exactly the way she deserved. The drive home was a blur. I don't even remember the turns I took, the stoplights I ignored, or the radio playing low in the background. All I remember is gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, my jaw clenched so tight it ached. When I pulled into the driveway, I just sat there, staring at the house we built together. The place that was supposed to be ours. The place where we shared late-night talks, lazy Sunday mornings, whispered secrets in the dark. All of it was a lie. My hands were still shaking when I finally stepped inside. The house was too quiet. Too still. I could still smell her perfume lingering in the air, see her shoes kicked off by the door, the jacket she had tossed over the couch. It made me sick. I should have been angry. I should have started ripping her shit out of the closets, tossing her clothes into garbage bags, smashing the stupid framed wedding photos hanging on the walls. But I didn't. I just stood there. Frozen. Because the truth was, I didn't know what to do. I had spent years of my life with this woman. Years. She was my best friend. My partner. My everything. And in the span of a single night, all of it had shattered. My knees felt weak. My stomach twisted. I made it to the kitchen just in time to brace myself against the counter, breathing hard, feeling like I might throw up. The memories hit me like a sledgehammer. The way she used to look at me. The way she used to hold my hand when we walked down the street. The nights we stayed up talking about our future, about kids, about growing old together. Had all of it been fake? Or had I just not been enough? I let out a shaky breath, squeezing my eyes shut. I couldn't do this. I couldn't sit here drowning in this spiral of doubt. I needed something, anything, to pull me out. So, I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I called my brother. Jake picked up on the second ring. Yo, what's up? His voice was casual, groggy. He was probably half asleep. It was past midnight, after all. I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. My mouth was dry. I need you to come over, I said, voice hoarse. There was a pause. Then, his tone shifted. What happened? I exhaled sharply, pressing a hand to my forehead. Emily. My voice cracked. I cleared my throat, forcing the words out. She's been cheating on me. Silence. Then, the sound of rustling fabric. I'm on my way. I didn't respond. Just ended the call and sank into a chair, my head in my hands. I don't know how long I sat there, but eventually, headlights flashed through the window. A car door slammed. Seconds later, Jake was in the doorway, looking at me like he was ready to kill someone. Tell me everything, he said, voice low and steady. So I did. I told him about the phone call. The messages. The GPS tracker. The way I watched her kiss another man with my own eyes. The confrontation in the parking lot. By the time I was done, my voice was raw, my hands clenched into fists. Jake just shook his head. That fucking bitch. I huffed out a bitter laugh. Yeah. She lied to your face, man. Over and over. He rubbed his jaw, his expression dark. What are you gonna do? I let out a slow breath, staring at the floor. Divorce. The word felt heavy in my mouth. Final. Real. Jake nodded. Good. Silence stretched between us. Then, softly, he asked, Do you still love her? I swallowed. My chest ached. I don't know. Jake exhaled through his nose, leaning against the counter. That's the worst part, isn't it? He said. That you still feel something, after everything. I didn't answer. Because I knew he was right. Love doesn't disappear overnight. Even when it should. Even when the person you love has betrayed you in the worst way possible. I hated her. I hated what she did to me. But some small, pathetic part of me still wanted her to walk through that door and fix it. I hated myself for that. Jake clapped a hand on my shoulder. Listen to me, he said. She didn't just make a mistake. She made a choice. Over and over again. She disrespected you. Lied to you. Treated you like you were some dumbass who wouldn't figure it out. I stared at the floor, my jaw tight. You deserve better, he continued. And I don't care how much it fucking hurts right now, you will move on from this. I nodded slowly, even though I wasn't sure I believed it yet. Come on, Jake said, stepping back. Let's start packing her shit. The first thing I threw in a box was our wedding photo. I stared at it for a long time before finally shoving it face down into the pile. Then, piece by piece, I started erasing her from my life. One lie at a time. The house felt different without her. Colder. Quieter. Jake stayed with me that first night. We drank. We packed. We talked about everything except Emily. He knew I needed space, to process, to accept, to breathe. By morning, her things were packed into boxes, stacked by the door like garbage waiting to be taken out. I hadn't texted her. Hadn't called. Didn't want to. But she came anyway. It was early evening when I heard her car pull up. A hesitant knock followed. I took my time opening the door. When I did, there she was, Emily, standing on the porch, eyes red-rimmed, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. She took a shaky breath. Can we talk? I stepped aside without a word. Her eyes flicked to the packed boxes. She swallowed hard. You really did it. I crossed my arms. What did you expect? She didn't answer. For a long moment, she just looked at me. Like she was searching for the man she used to know. And maybe she was. Because I wasn't him anymore. I was done being the fool. Emily finally spoke. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. I don't care if you're sorry. She flinched. I gestured to the boxes. Take your things and go. Her lower lip trembled. You really won't even consider? No. Tears welled in her eyes. Please, she whispered. I made a mistake. I clenched my jaw. No, Emily. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. You made a choice. Over and over again. She let out a quiet sob. I still love you. I stared at her for a long moment. Then, finally, I said the words that set me free. I don't love you anymore. She broke. But I didn't stay to watch. I turned, walked away, and never looked back. That night, I slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling through the blinds. For the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel so heavy. I sat up, rubbed my face, and let out a long breath. The house was still quiet, but it felt different. Not empty. Not broken. Just mine. Emily was gone. Her things? Gone. Her perfume? Fading. Her lies? Still lingering, but losing their grip. Jake had stayed the night, crashed on the couch with an empty whiskey glass beside him. When I stepped into the kitchen, he stirred, cracking an eye open. She come get her shit? He muttered, voice rough from sleep. I nodded. Yeah. He stretched, groaning as he sat up. She say anything? I grabbed a mug from the cabinet, pouring myself some coffee. Yeah, I said, staring at the black liquid. She said she still loves me? Jake scoffed. Bet she did. I took a sip, the warmth spreading through me. Doesn't matter. I told her I don't love her anymore. He blinked. You really said that? I nodded. A slow smirk spread across his face. Damn, he said. Proud of you, man. I let out a breath. Yeah, I murmured. Me too. By noon, I was at a lawyer's office. Filing for divorce wasn't as painful as I thought it would be. Maybe because the real pain had already come and gone. This was just the paperwork, the final nail in the coffin of a marriage that had already died. The lawyer asked if I wanted to contest anything. I didn't. I just wanted out. When I left the office, I didn't feel sadness. Or regret. Or even anger. I just felt free. That night, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I went out. Alone. I didn't go to drink my pain away. I didn't go to meet someone new. I just went to a quiet bar, ordered a beer, and sat there, letting the world move around me. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't drowning. I wasn't chasing answers. I wasn't wondering where she was, or who she was with. I was just me again. And that was enough. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the story. And subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new interesting stories. See you soon.